Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce. I'm your host for today's episode, Lisa Hackbarth. And I'm joined today by Emma Kirby-Kidd and Matt Juden-Bloomfield. I am so glad that you guys are both here. And I know we were kind of joking about how we are all trapped inside during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, thanks for being here. But what else did you have to do? So
Exactly. Nothing else,
right. Well, today it is so great to have you both on the show, and we are going to be talking about the Center of Excellence and all of the lessons that you guys have learned. And this is actually Matt's second time on the show, but this time we wrangled in Emma to get her perspective as well. So before we jump in, Matt, would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Matt Juden-Bloomfield, and I'm head of RPA for Blue Prism. And I also look after our corporate social responsibility initiative, Blue Prism for Good.
Excellent. And Emma?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us along today. My name is Emma Kirby-Kidd, and I am a Customer Success Director at Blue Prism. I was a former customer working for a large insurance company called Ageas in the UK. I had been automating for Ageas for 9 years, but specifically using Blue Prism for the last 5 years. One of my first jobs at Blue Prism was to be assigned as the Customer Success Director for our own COE and to help coach, support and mentor them through their roles and how to grow out and scale their RPA capabilities.
Perfect. And you guys are very meta that you're kind of doing the job that we do for other customers. So before we jump in, I realized, for customers who don't know what a COE is or a Center of Excellence, do you mind just sharing a little bit about what that is?
Sure. I mean, a Center of Excellence in its most simplistic terms is essentially the sort of centralized focus of all automation efforts in a business. And so anyone who is looking to set up Blue Prism or implement that within their business, we would recommend that you set up a Center of Excellence to own the governance, to own the infrastructure, the technology, to manage best practice, to do the development, and ultimately to sort of be accountable for all of the processes, automated processes within the business, and then report on that accordingly.
Yeah, essentially what it boils down to, your Center of Excellence is your end-to-end RPA team. Perfect.
Got it. Yeah. So today we're going to jump in and kind of talk about the journey that we have been on within Blue Prism, and then how our CSD interaction was so pivotal. So Emma, do you want to kick us off around that topic?
Yeah, so sure. When I joined Blue Prism, I had a wealth of knowledge I didn't think I actually knew I had, strangely enough. So I was really fortunate to have experienced a lot of different scenarios in my time as a process automation lead at Ageas. And I pretty much did that with my team single-handedly without any support. We didn't have a partner and we just muddled through, found our way and actually built our own robotic operating model, which is the methodology that Blue Prism endorses for their Center of Excellence. So because of that, I had everything thrown at me. It was great. Anything you can think of. And we did it well, and we did it really badly. And when we did it really badly, it gave us so many key learnings, and it was fantastic because that meant I could bring that wealth of experience and knowledge on into this role, and I could go out and help our customers build a robotic operating model and make it strong and make it right for their business and adapt it to suit them and help them not to make the same mistakes that I made, which is essentially where Matt and I formed this great collaboration and relationship to help build his team out.
Yeah, perfect. I know. Yes, failure is such a great teacher. So thanks for going first.
Believe you me, if I could do it wrong, I did it wrong. But I learned from it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
And that's the important thing. And now, yeah, you can bring all of that knowledge here to not only us, but our customers as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, great. And so, Matt, you want to talk maybe about how bringing these things has impacted us internally here at Blue Prism?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for anyone who listened to the first podcast, you'll be sort of aware of our journey and the fact that, you know, for the most part, we didn't really have any person accountable for doing automations internally until I joined the firm nearly 2 years ago now. And so, you know, we had already fallen into our own pothole. You know, we'd already fallen, I guess, at the first hurdle, that we hadn't fully prioritized it, and we hadn't given, you know, automation the sort of focus and attention and love that it actually needs in order for it to be a success. And so Emma thankfully joined us about this time last year, actually. And so I was kind of circa 9 months into my role. I had 2 people in the team, and you know, I'd kind of got some of the governance underway. I'd got sort of various bits of infrastructure. We had just migrated to a new cloud-based Azure platform. You know, we've got maybe 2 or 3 automations out the door, and, you know, the team was sort of continuing to train and develop and stuff. But there were just so many things that, in order to kind of get us to a sort of more mature state, that really I just hadn't got the experience of. I hadn't necessarily even got the foresight to go, oh, okay, this is the kind of thing I need to be expecting. And so Emma coming in with the sort of experience that she has, and obviously, you know, I guess arguably some kind of benefit in the sense that she wasn't involved in the BAU. She was sort of able to come in and sit above that and go, look, you know, these are the things that you could actually be improving upon, almost like a bit of a consultant. And you know, it was almost like someone kind of had sort of like open up the curtains, and it was like, you know, there's actually some really easy wins that we can do here. And yeah, it was a massive kickstart, I think, in our ramp up.
Yeah, it was almost like we switched the lights on, didn't we? It was a light bulb moment for you, and it was my first job. So my first job at Blue Prism was working with you guys, and that was a year ago. And it was. And
I mean, if you compare where we were, sorry, I was going to say, if you compare where we were then, to now, you know, it's phenomenally different. You know, for a start, the team is nearly in double digits. So we're just about to hire the 10th person. We have got nearly 20 processes live. We're delivering thousands of hours back to the business. We're working with departments all over the world, all over the company. We've got advocates basically in every department that we didn't have last year. And I guess the starting bit with all of that, and it was something quite simplistic that Emma suggested that I was initially quite reluctant, was about sort of creating our internal brand and sort of creating what it is that we stood for. So, you know, what is our value proposition, and what is it that we're actually going to be delivering back to the business? I had a vision, and I sort of had our mission statement, but it wasn't necessarily particularly snappy / sexy. Like, it wasn't that digestible. And equally, it sort of just screamed of, you know, an internal change project, rather than this being, you know, a great innovative team that were there to sort of help you and your business area. And so Emma's suggestion was that we named our digital workers, and that we also created social media channels in order to engage with the wider business on a weekly basis. So, you know, much to my dismay, Emma sort of held our hands to basically add every single person in the business to our Yammer page. And to this day, we are still the most followed Yammer page, so we must be doing something right. And then we created our digital worker personas. So we have 4. We've got Albert, Beatrice, Charles, and Diana. So we've gone for a nice British royal theme. And the marketing team created little digital personas of them, which we've had now printed on T-shirts. We've had them put on cakes, and we've held birthday parties in the office. You know, we've done a lot of fun stuff. And the overarching thing that I learned out of all of that, and what I share with customers when I speak with them, is that making automation and making change appear to be something that is actually not that scary and quite accessible is a huge way to win people's hearts and minds and kind of get them bought into the overall process. And so now that we have people proudly wearing their digital worker t-shirts, I go on conference calls and I see people wearing their Charles t-shirt or their Diana t-shirt or whatever. And, it's really nice to see, but almost in many ways, the people have sort of taken the COE concept and run with it themselves. And now a lot of the hard work, rather than kind of getting people to buy into it and believe in us, is actually more of just delivering. And that's the bit that we're now at.
I think you're being, sorry. I was going to say, I think you're being, by saying hesitant, I think you're underplaying that. I think I had to massively pull you along on that. But look how I gave you a small idea, but it's just grown and it's unbelievable. Like the whole company love it. They just can't get enough of the little digital workers, and the fact that we use it in our some of our marketing materials is just, it's just something to be so proud of. It's just it's a really a great way. You took cultural adoption to the next level. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think actually the pièce de resistance of all of that actually is that our digital work has actually appeared in the diversity and inclusion marketing branding that's gone across all of our offices. And I think that's actually such a nice way to describe it, is that, what we're actually saying is, obviously we want to have people from all walks of life, all diversities, all backgrounds, you're very welcome here and you can bring your whole self to work, is kind of the overarching message. But what it says from a digital worker perspective is that we're saying, automation is fundamentally embedded into our everyday, and that actually this is something that, everyone needs to be on board with. And I think that for me signified a huge shift in change, which is really refreshing.
Yes, for sure. I think, unfortunately, I'm fresh off of, so our family, for the quarantine situation, has been watching all of the Marvel movies in chronological order. And we just watched the Avengers Age of Ultron. So the whole robots coming to life thing is very real to me right now. So thankfully, ours
are a little less scary.
Yes,
ours are cute.
Yes, not taking over the world quite yet. So I will welcome them as my coworkers. All right. So what is your advice around setting up and growing a center of excellence?
Well, I suppose I'll kick off here. I think you need to go with it. There is no right or wrong way to do it. We do have a robotic operating model, which is it's there to complement your target operating model, your business target operating model, but it is very much a guidance. So you have to build your center of excellence, and you need to build it in a way that complements your business and complements your business's strategy. So one thing I always say to my customers is, don't think the robotic operating model is a one size fits all. It needs to fit your business. So you need to take the elements out of the robotic operating model that you feel will strengthen your RPA journey and will help you build your center of excellence. You don't need to use every single part of the documentation or the recommendations of the robotic operating model. If you did that, it would take you forever to deliver anything. But you need to build something that's right for you. And that's very much how we approached it with our own internal COE. So there was a view that perhaps we should have used everything, but absolutely, I think it's right to use the stuff that's right for you and right for your business and right for your delivery journey as well. So Matt and I, we took the bits that worked for Blue Prism, and we also changed it up a little bit, and we're not afraid to do that. Really enjoyed making it your own and fitting it around what suited our COE, because COEs can vary in size, they can vary in speeds of delivery. And, for Matt and his team, they start off really small. They have scaled massively, and is still an integral part of our business. So what we had to do at the beginning was we had to look at what would get them up and running and keep them safe, with the view that over time we will adapt that. And we do that. It's something that should always be looked at and reviewed for improvement. That is quite a key part of having a centre of excellence, is always looking at how you can improve and make your delivery quicker and more agile, but keeping yourself safe. So that's really, for me, what I believe is a great way to set up and grow your COE. Matt, what do you think?
Totally agree. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, the other part of that is that, well, twofold. The first is that your priorities as a centre of excellence are going to be defined by whatever the exec and the overarching business strategy lays out. So as a business, it might be that you want to expand into as many geographies as you can. And so therefore, ultimately, as an automation team, maybe it's about increasing capacity, or it's maybe about helping to augment and sort of enable further FTE delivery back to the business. Whereas some companies, it might actually be more of a cost saving measure, or it might be about FTE reduction or whatever. And so again, you've got to kind of like pivot and sort of apply all of the various different aspects of your COE to whatever that strategy lays out. The second element I think that I would suggest is that, and I'm going to use a coronavirus lockdown analogy here, is, just kind of get on and do it, take baby steps, but just do it. And the analogy that I'm going to take there is where you're sat at home on your sofa and you can't really be bothered to go out and go for a run, but you really do feel like you need to do some exercises, you're going to turn into a blob. I think it's just doing one positive thing to sort of get yourself towards that. And a COE, in some ways, you've got to do some positive steps towards it. So don't try and tackle everything at once, because it can seem a little bit overwhelming. But actually, write out your vision, start looking at the heat map of, what areas of the business do you think and are you being told that really need help and really need to be more efficient? Again, from an automation stance, don't look at sort of your global payroll system as your first process. That's never going to be a good idea. But actually breaking it down into small pieces, or even the quick wins where, it's a small but quite high value, high impacting process, they're the kind of things you want to focus on. And it's all those kind of things that, Emma sort of helped us to reinforce and to learn, and I think really has sort of helped enable us to get to where we are today.
I think that's a really good point you pick up there, Matt. Actually, a lot of our customers start with the most complex process, and you are kind of setting yourself up to fail there. I know this because I did exactly the same thing. So I've learned this mistake. So if you pick something that's really big and really complex because there's quite a lot of benefit attached to it, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to learn to be a centre of excellence, because you focus so much on delivering that. And then for your lead time of delivery just grows and grows and grows, and people start to lose the faith in what you can do. So one of the things that I teach my customers is actually it may be better to pick a few smaller benefit processes, but you've got to learn how to use the technology, and you've got to learn how to build your methodology around it. And if you pick something that's really big and complex, then you're not actually giving yourself space to learn and grow as a team. And that's really important. And that's the kind of things that customer success directors and the customer success team come out and help you with. And they help shape your team. They help coach, mentor you through this, because it is quite a big challenge to take on to begin with. But, as soon as you see, as Matt says, you can break it down into bite-sized pieces, it feels a lot less of a heavy implementation.
And I think the other aspect of that is something to kind of make anyone who's listening and feeling a bit like overwhelmed almost, is that, and experiment isn't the right word, but in many ways the COE was a bit of an experiment internally, because A, it had never been done before, but B, we decided to go for an approach whereby everyone who was hired, including myself, was someone who had no RPA knowledge prior to joining the Center of Excellence. And we decided that, using all of the documentation that's available on the portal, that's available, on our website, etc., that should be enough in order to get people upskilled. And, sure enough, it was. No one who I've hired had an RPA background. Everyone came either fresh from university, where maybe they touched on RPA as part of a learning module or something, but they didn't have any hands-on experience. I've got people who joined my team who had previously been working in engineering firms, very different. Or myself, I came from consulting. And so, I think that is something that I would just say, hearing all of those things, that, there is so much help available, be it in a sort of hard document format, or be it in videos on YouTube or LinkedIn, or if you're lucky enough to have a CSD, then reaching out to the sort of experts like Emma who can help.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's very rare, if not pretty much unheard of, that you have a Centre of Excellence where people have come in from that background previously. So don't feel overwhelmed, because everybody who starts this journey starts it with a clean slate. They don't really know. They've come in not part of an RPA background previously. It's more to do with maybe continuous improvement or one of the business areas. So hear that message more than anything. It's very rare that you get people that come into a Centre of Excellence with that experience already there.
Perfect. Yeah, there's so much, and there's so many resources, as you guys already touched on, with the community. And of course, you can get service plans where you can have someone hold your hand a little bit more and that kind of thing. So yeah, perfect. And for me, my takeaway was, if you get a Center of Excellence, it will help you from turning into a blob. I think that was the big one that I heard from Matt, right? Oh, maybe that was just an analogy.
I mean, I guess if you take Blob as an inefficient organization who doesn't have streamlined processes, then yes, you've absolutely nailed it.
Oh, perfect. We should definitely start using that in marketing. Oh, all right. So why don't we jump into I know that you guys have a big long list of the lessons that you have learned. So maybe we can just ping pong back and forth around some of those that we've talked about as we were discussing this episode.
I think Matt started with, or Matt has already mentioned the kind of my first one, which is just do it. So a lot of people skirt around it, and they kind of, they dip their toe in the water and then jump back out. And actually, you're never going to see the benefit if you don't just go into it with gusto and chuck yourself into it. So for me, it's scary. It's brand new, but the wealth of benefits that you'll get out of the back of it are more than you've probably experienced in any kind of change management program or software implementation. So just go into it, with enthusiasm, because you will come out the other side with plenty of benefits, business benefits.
So my one is, I'm going to have with a massive caveat, but essentially my biggest lesson learned was that it's really important to ask for forgiveness rather than permission all of the time. And, I mean that in the sense of where people are still trying to learn, get their head around and understand what it is that an automation team does. There are often blockers put in place that is simply people's concerns, anxiety, etc., just materializing in them, being a bit difficult about getting something done. And so oftentimes what we found was, if we actually just go ahead, start automating, find a workaround or whatever, and then we show it to the team, that they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And then instantly they've sort of bought in. However, my big caveat to that is, don't do that with IT.
No.
IT are the ones that you need to make sure that you bring on that journey and that you keep them fully on side. So, you don't want to mess up anything by way of infrastructure. You don't want to have any kind of data issues. They're the ones that you need to sort of make sure that you're keeping sweet. But for all of the other areas, I would say that you can sort of apply that technique quite nicely.
And that's a really good point, because it's so difficult with IT to go back and rebuild that relationship. So, You know, having IT in from the outset and keeping them involved is much easier than having to go back and rebuild that with them. So my second one would be, this is my favorite, it's transparency and culture. So be transparent, be open with your business about RPA, remove the fear early on. People will always revert to the robots are taking my job. And the more you are transparent with your business areas, the more that will drive that fear. So it really isn't, there's no golden egg here. You just need to keep your people involved, keep your business areas close, create subject matter experts within those business areas, or business process champions, because these are the people that know processes better than anyone, and create a culture and adopt your digital workforce into that culture. So it's not about a them and us situation. It's about making them co-workers. That's really, really important. And the only way you can do that is to create a culture where you get your business involved, you use their knowledge, you get them to come along on the journey with you, and then hopefully that fear will be removed early on.
I love those. I'd say for me, my next biggest lesson is quite similar, but it's to do with the sort of the visualization of the data. And so as part of that transparency that Emma talks about, you know, we worked really hard to get a Splunk dashboard set up whereby we could display all of our sort of runtime resources and, you know, everything that they're doing in real time. And so by giving all of the different process owners access to that dashboard, it immediately helped them to understand, okay, so it took a little bit longer than expected, but the dashboard says it's still running. You know, I'll maybe just give it a minute before I start calling up the support line and, you know, blocking tickets or annoying the Center of Excellence team, as we found, you know, early on when people didn't have the visibility that they would do. And, you know, oftentimes people are just super chilled. They check in when they need to. And thankfully, we have very few problems. And so that works really well. But equally, when there is a problem, often it means that they can then be alerted to it. Or indeed, if they notice it before us, which isn't always the nicest scenario, they're able to then proactively say, hey, we need some help, and then we can jump on it. So that sort of visualization and sort of transparency has been a huge thing for us, I would say.
Completely agree. I think my other one would be, I'm going to give you permission to make mistakes. So make as many mistakes as you can. And I know that sounds strange, but actually the lessons that you learn from those mistakes are invaluable. So don't be afraid to keep making mistakes, because even the most mature of RPA teams still make mistakes and still learn from them, because you just don't get a better lesson than making a mistake in the RPA world. So, but it's not the thing about the mistakes in RPA world is you can absolutely fix them quite quickly. So that's one of my things I'm going to give back to you. Give yourself permission to make mistakes.
And that's just a great life lesson, I think. So wise. Yeah.
My final one, if I may, is more of a personal one, but it's essentially not to take things too personally. You know, where people push back or are a bit afraid or are anxious about what this means for them or it means for their job or whatever, you know, it's actually just natural human traits that are coming out. And, you know, you've just got to manage that sort of delicately, but also in a light-hearted and fun way, in order to kind of help them understand and to see that actually this can be okay and this will be actually a great thing. And I think early on, I think I sort of underestimated maybe how challenging it could have been. And so, yeah, I think if I was sort of going back and saying something to myself, that would probably be that, is don't take it personally. You know, it's going to be okay. And that ultimately it's just people's concerns. And, you know, if you do a good job of articulating and bringing them on that journey, then they'll fade.
Yeah, it's nice when people, you realize it's just, we're all humans. So it's all about communication and working together. And as long as they know that you're trying to be helpful, I think that goes a long way. So great. Well, why don't we jump into how to take your Center of Excellence to the next level, and maybe your top tips for our audience around how they can improve their own journeys.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
as the most junior, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
I would say that using the robotic operating model is a huge way to get to your next level, and using a ROM assessment in order to help you check your progress against that, and also kind of give you some clear guidance and tips on what you could be doing to improve. So we followed the robotic operating model to the letter. We ensured that we delivered against the 7 pillars. And then we used a ROM assessment, which, for anyone who isn't aware, is essentially an audit that we can come and do to check how well you've delivered against each of those pillars by someone from our professional services organization. And they'll then outline the things that you could be doing to improve. And to be honest, that was a massive thing for us, where we were able to visualize the things that we were doing well, but equally the things that maybe were falling down. And so what I've taken is doing that on a relatively regular basis. So we've done it annually now. And that has sort of kept us on the straight and narrow, and kind of made us continually challenge our sort of status quo and our day-to-day norms. And it's been a real bonus, I'd say.
Great. And for anybody who's interested, we will link to more information about the ROM in the show notes.
I think don't be afraid to push back is a really good tip. So once you've got yourself up and running and you've got your robotic operating model in place, if you've started to deliver some real benefit back to the business, everybody's going to want a piece of this, and they're going to want to come knocking on your door to deliver. And actually, you have to be realistic about what you can deliver and what you can't deliver, and what timescales. So as scary as it might be, having to push back to your C-suite, don't be afraid to do it, because the benefit can be had, but you need to manage their expectations as to when they're going to get that, and how quickly in reality you can deliver that. So I've made this mistake in the past. I'm sure my old team, they were a fantastic team, and I used to put a lot of pressure on them to deliver. Would agree that it's absolutely right to say to somebody, great, I want to do that for you, but realistically, I can't do it tomorrow. Again, it's something that Matt and I discussed a lot in the early days, because Matt was keen to deliver, but managing expectations is really important, and not being afraid to say, can't do it right now, is a good way to help you form a good pipeline and manage it effectively.
And on Emma's point there, one of the things that I would also say is a great way to sort of take things to the next level is, using that pushback to the C-suite as an opportunity to challenge them. So, get them to think about what it is that they actually want to see delivered. What is it that within their, business areas are, being done that's particularly inefficient, or stuff that, they're about to spend X number of thousands of pounds on a new system, or hiring more people, but actually, is anyone challenging and saying, why could a digital worker not do that? And so, something that I put to our chairman was that, we need to have objectives for all of our leadership to say, this is the amount that we're going to automate, and we're still working on it. But, the fact that we've even had that conversation, I think, shows that we're moving in the right direction. And I would say that, on Emma's point of don't be afraid to push back. Like, if this is genuinely and truly a proper way that people want to deliver value back to the business, then everyone needs to be bought into it, and everyone, needs to be tangibly proving that. And I think that's setting objectives is a great way to do so.
Agreed. Absolutely. I also wanted to say around the robotic operator model, which is absolutely the methodology you should follow, and Matt, you guys, you do follow it to the T. I think when you're very first starting out, don't get overwhelmed by it, because it's a huge methodology to learn. And actually, it should always be a learning process. You should always, keep coming back, as Matt does with his yearly ROM assessments. You must always keep it as an ongoing cycle. It should always be a continuous improvement. How can you make it better? So you don't feel that right at the beginning you've got to do it all. You need to start small, but think for the longer term. Don't go for, as I said, go for the big complex processes. Start with a smaller process, but have the complex process in mind, because you can get that benefit down the line. You need to think about what's for the future, what's next. You need to, learn all about the core Blue Prism product before you learn about the additional techs that sit on top of it. So that when you first start off, it can be daunting. The robotic operating model can be daunting, but just take it and pick the bits that work for you and build it out over time. Don't go with the whole lot at first, because you'll never get your team up and running and running with automation opportunities if you try and do the whole lot at once.
Yeah, that's all great advice. And I'm starting to really see why, not that anybody can do it, but you can really pull in people from all walks of life, because I think a lot of the things that you guys are talking about, for me, I'm kind of sitting back going, all of this is great lessons learned for anyone in any role. So it's, really kind of just about how you work and interact with people and influence people and, manage expectations and processes and things like that. So,
well, I think, the interesting and kind of unique way in which a center of excellence operates is that, done right, you are working with every single area of the business. And so you are right. Like, a lot of the learnings that we're taking are applicable to kind of any job, because we're sort of involved and visible to it all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I think the other thing needs to be pointed out is actually use Blue Prism. We're here to help you. We've got a wealth of experience and knowledge within all of our teams, from professional services to customer success to our internal COE, our sales team. So, reach out and speak to us. We're here for you. I think some people feel like that, some customers feel like that they don't want to reach out, or they can't reach out. That's absolutely not true for Blue Prism. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support and hold your hand through this. So reach out to us, because that's what we're here for.
All right. Matt, do you mind jumping in and elaborating on some specific use cases that are being implemented?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one that I am personally very passionate about at the moment is we're actually working with a UK charity called MenCap, who basically help provide care and services to people with mental disabilities and mental handicaps. And we sort of got introduced to them through the Royal Bank of Canada, and they had begun looking at starting automations in their HR team. So for the last couple of months, my team has been working with them side by side to train some of their team up to be developers and get them certified. And then we're also delivering 3 automations to their HR team, which has been, it's been a really cool journey, of us being able to apply our learnings and to be able to help give back to a company which is actually doing some phenomenal things for the UK sort of care sector. And then more recently with MenCap, they actually applied through our COVID-19 response program, which is essentially a program where we're offering donations of licenses and time for businesses who are struggling currently under the COVID crisis that's affecting us all. So that got approved last week, and we're also now delivering through that program automations for them in their payroll department, enabling them to automate their payroll function, which then gives the sort of the caregivers time back in order to spend with people who are really in need specifically at this time. So yeah, that's sort of a big one that I'm pretty passionate about.
I think that's a really good use case, actually, Matt, to just highlight the capabilities of Blue Prism. So most people go into using RPA as a way of driving efficiency in your business, and that's brilliant, because that's pretty much where you should start off. But as you mature through, you can be more open-minded about how you can use the tool. It doesn't have to be just around cost reduction. In my time, we were looking at other different types of processes that we could use Blue Prism to automate, and therefore not just drive cost reduction, but look at how we can increase revenue for our business, or how we can avoid risk, or how we can avoid costs. So I think, as you move through your journey and you mature as a COE, think outside the box, expand your thinking on what you can use Blue Prism for, because it's not all about cost reduction. There's many other sides to the tool.
Great advice. Well, perfect. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you both. I think this has been a great conversation. I always enjoy talking to both of you. You have such great energy and everything. So if anyone listening has follow-up questions or would like to connect with you directly, what's the best way for them to find you? Matt?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. If you type in Matt Juden Bloomfield, I'll come up. Equally, feel free to email centerofexcellence@blueprism.com, spelt in either the English or the American way.
And Emma?
Again, I am also on LinkedIn. So you just need to type in Emma Kirby Kidd, or you can contact me directly on emma.kirby-kidd@blueprism.com.
Perfect. And we will link to all of those things in our show notes too. So if anyone wants to reach out, they can do that. And then if you had one piece of advice around people, like if they wanted to take one next step or learn something, where would you send them?
For me, it would be to our portal. So if you type in www.blueprism.com, you can go to our own portal where there's loads of information about the robotic operating model, our Blue Prism University, and there's also a link to our communities pages from there. So actually our community pages are a wealth of information where you can connect directly up with other customers, anybody from Blue Prism. So we have our professional services team on there, our customer success team. Matt's team also use the communities portal as well. So they're good ways to start.
All right, great. Well,
Mine.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. And skip you.
Yeah.
Who are you anyway?
Forgot you were here, Matt. Oh.
Yeah. Hi there. Thanks for having me. So my one would be I would suggest going to the website and just downloading the training license. So it's completely free and it's free for 90 days, although because of the COVID crisis that we're currently experiencing, we've actually extended that to 180 days for now. So you've got a whole 6 months to get playing. And, I think that I learned loads from the robotic operating model and, just reading up, but I actually learned even more by just getting hands-on with the product and seeing what it could do. And so I'd highly recommend that if you're dabbling and you're not really sure and you're kind of sat on the fence, just download the training license. It's totally free, totally easy. And, use that alongside some of the guides and the community like Emma suggested. And, you'll be off to a great start.
Wonderful. Well, just a wealth of knowledge. So there's no shortage of resources. And again, I'll link to all of those things in the show notes. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. I want to thank you both, Matt and Emma, for your time today. And I thank our audience for joining us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.